I am a third generation college student. My mom was my advisor my freshman, sophomore years, and it wasn't until I was in my profession as an academic advisor that I realized how fortunate I was to have my mom. And so I think I took that into my academic advising, and to embrace that and understand how that affected how I navigated through higher ed. Using an Indigenous Research Methodology, you gather information, and there's different ways of describing it. Some of the scholars call it yarning, some call it storytelling, but you gather your information through story. And so even though I'd start out with, what was your college experience? It was a story of that, of what they remembered and what stood out. If I went in with just a qualitative, basic approach with interview questions and, everybody was interviewed the exact same way, I wouldn't have gotten the richness that I got. Being a Crow people from Pryor, from Crow, from Lodgegrass, from Garryowen, that was at the core of who they were. Our culture and identity, it guided everything we did. Whether we chose to go away, to leave our community and go to college, or commute. Whether we came back and worked in our community, or whether we stayed away and made those different connections coming home every now and then, or the type of career we went into. I remember I was visiting with one of my cousins doing an interview, and she said, "It's because we're Crow. I'm proud to be a Crow. I never want to lose those ways." And as she said that, I knew in the moment that it was important. And when I came back and started listening to the stories, there was that being said by everybody. Everybody was saying, "I am Crow. This is why I did what I did." Everybody's process is different. Most of the people I visited with didn't, go out of state or go anywhere too far away. They were all still very connected to the Crow community as they were going through college. Because what people would do to stay connected is they came home every weekend. And they were still at family events and showed up to vote, and they were present. They were still visually present in the community. Where those who, moved away and still came home as often as they could, they were still faced with those hardships and those challenges of people saying, oh, you think you're better than us now. Because when you're in the community, you're immersed in your culture, right? Because you're constantly surrounded by aunts and grandmothers and sisters who will correct you when you've done something that you're not supposed to do. And so you do come back sometimes. There was a period of your life where you weren't immersed in it, and you come back and you kind of forget. So they didn't belong when they were on campus, but then they also didn't belong when they were home either. There was a period in their life where it was just, it just felt, it was hard. Visiting with, it was actually a group of women, and they were all educated women, but they were talking about a family member who was away. When he would come back, he would speak Crow. They would listen to how he would pronounce things, and if it was a little bit off, they would correct him, and that was huge. I didn't realize it as I was hearing it. They were testing to see if when we come back we're still Crow, right? We still think and practice, and in some cases speak the Apsáalooke language. As people were sharing their stories, there was tears and there was anger, because it was the first time that they really, for me it felt like it was the first time that they really had an opportunity to tell their story about that experience, because when they came back in, they were fighting so hard to prove that they still belonged, and the reason they went off was to come home and help, but yet they were being tested at every corner. When they came back into the community, they wished they would have had mentors in their profession to help them learn, because they're brand new graduates and they're coming in and they're almost being put in leadership positions and being given that privilege of knowing more, but then them still being young professionals needing mentorship. And so that expectation of automatic leadership, because you've achieved that, in return, they wanted to see more mentorship. Those expectations are then, yes, you come back as a teacher, a degree in elementary education, but you're also still X, Y, and Z. They'd observe you as you came back into the community. And so, yes, you came back as this person with education, with skills and tools to help your community, but are you also still a Crow person? The realities of returning home were really just dealing with those obstacles that people had to face, as far as, bringing Western concepts into our own culture, right? The Crow culture. But then it was also the systemic and lateral oppression that happens to colonized people, because I think a lot of that is internalized. Those things are reflected are us, being mean to each other. And if we keep going back, it's all linked to historical trauma, right? that whole process of returning home and the challenges that we're faced when we're trying to reacculturate into our own communities. And they'll come at us, and either we'll be individually strong enough to make it through, or we're not, and we leave. Once we acknowledge how we've inherited all of these social issues, then we can start moving forward. And it's not that simple. I made it sound super simple, and it's not. That's where I choose to start. And I come from a strength-based way of thinking where I always try to find the good or the positive, even if something bad happens. I felt like there were so many positives when we return home that, yeah, there's these barriers and obstacles and challenges and realities, but they don't outweigh the benefits of being back among your people, in your communities, with your family. I look back and I just think how I'm just so thankful to hear the stories that I heard. It's just that value of respect, because if you respect yourself, if you respect others, if you respect the environment you're in, that knowledge will come to you if you're meant to have it. Thankful for being Crow and being taught that respect is important, because it gave me the opportunity to hear stories that, really changed the way I looked at things. And hopefully the people who shared those stories with me too, hopefully it gave them a validation of their experience and reminded them too that what they did was huge, but like the accomplishments that they made were big and they were important, and we need to celebrate them.